Okay, so let's go through what I played on that. First chord, as I said, was a D chord. We're in the key of A, so there's sort of an overlying or underlying sense of A major to A minor pentatonic going on. But again, we want to focus on those chord tones because this chord progression is not a standard 1-4-5. The changes are a little richer. So we have that D chord, okay? So basically, I'm just seeing, and this is where all the caged work comes in handy. I have two caged courses for TrueFire. Just thought I'd mention that. The D triad that I'm seeing here on the top three strings, I'm basically playing directly out of that triad. So I'm bending from the minor third to the major third, which is, of course, a blues tradition. Bending the note F to F sharp. And then I'm playing the note A, which is the fifth of the chord. So I'm starting off with essentially the third of D to the fifth of D, F sharp to A. But it's bluesy, so let's just not play, because that's kind of dull. Let's play, put some attack in it and some vibrato and a bend. So third to the fifth of A, and then I just played a B, which is just an A major pentatonic chord tone, okay? So, and then as the chord shifts from D major to D minor, I want to address that third. So whereas I started with the major third, F sharp, now I'm actually going to play an F natural. So I follow that with its fifth, the same note A. So automatically, the first two phrases sound connected. This one, they sound connected. They don't sound like one has nothing to do with the other one, okay? So after I play the minor third of D minor, F, I follow it by A, and then I play F, E, D, okay? Now that's just coming down the scale. F is the third of the chord, E and D. The E note is in the major pentatonic scale as well. The D note is not in the major pentatonic scale, but of course it's the root of the chord, so we know we're in good chord tone land there. So we play that D, and then the next chord that we're going to is an A7, and I like the fact that the D is right next to the third of the A7, and the third is the most melodic of the chord tones. So to play the A7, I do this little rake thing. And basically, I'm doing a very quick rake through an A triad. C sharp, E, and A. So those three chord tones firmly puts us in that A tonality. And then I bend the note B up to the third of the chord again, C sharp. Right, so we start on a C sharp with that little rake, and then we bend up to a C sharp. And then I bring the bend down, back to the root, and then this B note becomes the third of G7. Now the G7 chord's somewhat unexpected in there, so I really wanted to make sure I hit a strong chord tone when that chord drops in. So as soon as that G7 is there, I'm hitting the third of the chord, which is B. Okay, so far we have minor third to major third, fifth, minor third, fifth, chord tone, or major pentatonic to chord tone. And now we have chord tones, scale tone, bend to the third, drop it down to the third of the next chord. So lots and lots of chord tones so far, all right? So we're on G7, and we have a B. Now, this is bluesy, so let's give it some of that bluesy sound. For the F sharp minor chord, a little blues lick into the F sharp. A slight bend, coming back to the third of the chord and the root of the chord. You could think of this as belonging to that Albert King kind of position on the neck, which a lot of people think of as out of the D minor caged chord shape. So if you were in F sharp minor there, that kind of sound, right? So that bend comes right out of that box. But again, I wasn't really thinking of that. I was really just thinking there's the third of the F sharp minor chord and there's the root of the F sharp minor chord. There's lots of different ways to think about how these notes appear. I've found from doing this for a really long time that chord tones is the most useful way because you just can't go wrong with them, all right? They just happen to cross over into scales and arpeggios as well. So, F sharp minor, we're on the root, and now we go to this 2-5-1 in A. We have a B minor 7, okay? So for the B minor 7, I start running up this little line, something like... And I start on the 5th of the chord, followed by the root. And then there's a scale tone, still in our A major pentatonic kind of bass. Or you could think of that as the 9th of the B minor 7. Either way is fine. And then I go to an A, and an A is the 7th of the B minor 7, the flat 7. So I've played the 5th, the root, and the flat 7. And I even I sort of slightly do a half step bend into the D, which is the 3rd. So all 4 chord tones are in this little line. But what I like about it is it doesn't sound like I went, you know, and played the arpeggio real straight of the chord tones. By making it, having this little slide, that little overtone of the 2 notes ringing, the little slinky half step bend, and then this little slide down, which I stole from Jimmy Herring. And there's the flat 7. So it just makes it sound more musical, you know. And then for the E7, if we look at the chord voicing itself, there's the 3rd of the chord. We've ended up a half step above that on the note A. So all we need to do is come down a half step. And I actually hit a double stop there, the 3rd of the chord and the root of the chord. Now double stops are superb in blues bass playing because they really lock you into the chord. You know, as soon as you hear that, it's pretty clear I'm playing an E7 chord, right? So B minor 7. And there's the E7. Now, for the blues turnaround, we have A7 to D9, which is essentially just D7 with an extension of a 9, back to A7, and then E7. A traditional 1-4-1-5 blues turnaround. And I've sort of stayed away from playing any minor pentatonic on this yet. So just for the first 2 chords, I start with a half step bend that's actually out of the minor pentatonic scale. I'm not a fan of playing minor pentatonic scale over the 1 chord of the blues. I don't like the sound of the minor 3rd against the major 3rd. I am a fan of playing it over the 4 chord of the blues. So if we were playing this as a standard 1-4-5 blues, against that A7 I would play A major pentatonic. And against that 4 chord, D7, I would play perhaps A minor pentatonic. That's just the way I come up, you know, think about blues changes. Anyway, so for that turnaround, I start off with a little nod to the minor pentatonic, just a very slight bend off the C, going up towards the major 3rd, but not quite getting there. So then we have chord tones, the root of the A7, the 7 of the A7, and then little Stevie Ray Vaughan rip there, playing the 9 of the chord as a quick hammer on, hammering on to the 9 from the root, and then back to the root again. And then coming down the chord tones, the flat 7 to the 5. Now here I use the flat 5, you know, and this is getting us through the A7 to D7 back to A7 part. I love the flat 5. Most people use it, you know, as the blues scale. I like using it in odd places, like letting that note hang, because I think it gives a really interesting dissonance to what you're playing. Anyway, so I play the 5 to the flat 5 just as a passing note, quickly resolve to the 4, a scale tone of A minor pentatonic, or if you like, the root of the D9 chord. So, and then for our last 2 chords, A7, and then back to E7 for the turnaround, I want to get my 3rd in there. So I lock right in with that A7 to get that C sharp in there. One of the first times I heard playing minor pentatonic resolving into major was Eric Clapton in his early Blues Breakers and Cream days. Anyway, so as I hit that major third, that locks me into the A7 chord, and then I just want to hit a chord tone of the E7, so I just hit the G sharp again, the third, with the double stop root of the E, okay? So, let's go through that real quickly again. So, major third to fifth, minor third to fifth, raking up to an A triad, major third of the G chord, chord tones and blues over the F minor chord, and then for the B minor, chord tone run up, targeting the third of the E chord, and then for the final four chords, the blues, A minor, locking into the third of the A7 chord, followed by the third of the E7 chord, and we're back to go again, all right? So you want to think major pentatonic on the 1 chord, minor pentatonic on the 4, but then go one step further, look at the notes that are in your blues changes. Because if you can see this moving, there's your 1 chord, there's your 4 chord, there's your 1 chord, there's your 5 chord. All the information you really need to play blues changes is right there, and of course, it's chord tones.